say welcome to Khe Hy.
I think I have to start with a tiny bit of backstory. I'm a kid. I'm first generation Cambodian immigrants. So my parents came to New York City in 1973 with no like $500 education. They were both educated, no family, no friends, and they spoke English. And my dad had a job at the United Nations, and he said, "I'm going to basically start a family here, anew." And then it's important to know, like at that time, there was also civil war about to happen in Cambodia. I followed the path. I was a very hardworking student, very shy, insecure, nervous. I was extremely skinny when I was in college and like growing up. So like people would always like make fun of me, and I just didn't feel like I really belonged. I think many people don't feel like they belong in middle school and high school, but I definitely didn't feel like I belonged. I get recruited to work on Wall Street. I work my butt off on Wall Street. The first like three years, like 80 to 100 hours a week, kind of like sleeping at your desk type stuff, like all the horror stories you hear. You get paid very well, but you have zero control of your life. Zero.
It's crazy to me how we like sometimes there's people coming in chat saying like, oh, I don't know if I like my future, if I like what I'm doing, and like, what do you have to lose? Like nothing. Like you don't have any responsibilities right now. Like you don't own a house, you don't have a mortgage. Thank you. You don't have a child. Like just test it out. But you got to take this wild decision while you also had like a daughter, and it's crazy to me. Like what tips or what advice would you give to someone who is currently struggling to understand what's their path, if they want to change it, like they're scared about it?
Yeah. So one thing that I did while I was on Wall Street, so those 60 hours, I was running tons of experiments. So I'll list a few of them.
Yeah.
I had this anonymous blog about New York. I'm from New York, so New York City culture and fashion and art. And because back in the days, like side hustles, if you had a corporate job, where it was a bad sign, it was a bad look because your boss would suspect you wanted to leave. I had to do all these projects very secretively. So I had this anonymous Twitter account. This was 10 years ago. So I was tweeting a lot of productivity stuff anonymously. I had this fashion culture blog. I was like hacking Google Sheets to try to make a personal like a dynamic personal CRM. I wrote all these business plans. I taught myself Python, and I was just always
Wow.
trying to like basically create what I call micro experiments. Not necessarily. So this is the advice I would give. It wasn't necessarily as like, is this going to be the next idea? It was more for two things. It was one, to see how badly I wanted to do something different. Because in my mind, it's like, if you have a 60-hour job and you're willing to spend 5 hours a week organizing secret networking events, imagine what you would do if you had 60 hours to do that. So my advice to people would be, start building those repetitions while you have the comfort of a job, while you have the comfort of healthcare, while you have the comfort, this is a big one, of identity, right? Because once you it's a little different now than it was 9 years ago. But if you said you were a blogger, if you were a 35-year-old professional person that was a blogger when you're 30, like 10 years ago, people thought you were weird.
Okay, I see that. Someone was asking before in chat, like, how do you manage to like work anonymously while you're also trying to build like a personal brand?
Yeah, it was an anonymous brand at that point.
Oh,
And
okay.
then once I quit, I just basically flipped it.
Okay.
And then
You did a face
and then put
reveal.
my real name. Yeah, I did yeah, I was like Dream or something, like, all this time,
Oh wow!
Um,
It was you all the time.
um,
Yeah. Someone I think was also asking in chat, how did you manage to do like 60 hours plus practice plus family? What's
yeah.
the secret behind like managing all of this?
I think it was an unhealthy answer that I'll give, but I didn't sleep that much.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I would sleep 6 hours a night.
6 hours a night.
So
That's
what's 6 plus 12 of
okay.
work is 18. And so, you had like I for a chunk of that time, I didn't have a kid. So probably like 2 hours of time to kind of do stuff.
Like, and before you were saying how like you should test and try things to realize if you like something, there's actually like a lot of people that come to me being like, and I imagine also to you, asking, oh, how do I become a YouTuber? What setup? What is your camera? I want to start, I want to get this microphone and this camera and this, and I'm like, before
Mm-hmm.
doing that type of
Yeah.
investment. Try with the crappiest thing you
Yeah.
have and test if you first of all like it. Because there's a lot of people
Yeah.
that test things that then they go all in, they get the best
Yeah.
computer, best microphone, they do it for a week and then they're like, I don't like it.
Yeah. Actually, let's drop into the chat. What's something where you're like, I'm going to love this thing, and you invest all this time and money in the thing, and then a month later, you realize that the thing was not, it sucked.
Yeah.
Like what? Like drop that into, and I'll say for me, for a long, long time, it was YouTube.
Really?
Because I was trying to do like, I've been flirting on and off with YouTube for like 5 or 6 years. And the thing is, because with YouTube, here's the problem. People want to be the noun, but they don't want to do the verb. So they want to be a runner,
Yeah.
but they don't want to run.
Yeah. Oh.
They want to be a writer, but they don't want to write. And that's why you gotta try things out first and like do a small experiment.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, okay, I have my own point of view on this, and Chat
Yeah.
most probably Chat most probably knows my point of view. But what do you think about motivation? How important is it to get to your goal?
I hear those as two different questions. So let's talk about, I think motivation is easier, and I'm seeing it, right? Motivation it's like that tension between the verb and the noun, right? Are
Yeah.
you motivated to be a YouTuber?
Enough to.
Or are you motivated by the craft of making videos, right? Because so one is an internal source of motivation, which is like, I love the art of this. The other is an external motivation, is I want to be seen as this type of person. I want the identity of a YouTuber. Now, the problem with things with external motivation is that oftentimes it's not nearly as sustainable. I've seen some people say that in the chat. If you're externally motivated for something, like let's say your best friend is a YouTuber and you want to have more subscribers than them, that's extral motivation.
Yeah.
I
Also mean.
you what's that?
And also very mean. Like, I want to have
It's
more
very mean, but
subscribers
you know,
than
people
them.
are competitive, right? Maybe it's but we do a version of that in other ways, when it's like someone gets promoted and you don't get promoted. It's the same version of that. And
Yeah.
you're like, I deserve that. You know, I'm smarter, I'm more talented. It's the same version, just different packaging. So the external motivation it can motivate you, but it eventually it wears out, because you're not doing it for the joy, the craft of the thing itself. And so personally, for me, I have a mantra, and people are probably not gonna think it's like indulgent or silly. It's like, but my mantra is follow the fun. So I only want to do things that are fun. I
That's
want to put a little
nice.
caveat there.
That's
I
it.
put a caveat, but writing a newsletter for 418 weeks is fun to me.
Is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
So-
If it wasn't, I'd stop doing it.
What would you have?
There are moments I don't want to write it,
Exactly. What did you do
but
then?
with the moments that I don't want to write it, sometimes I take a break. So I have taken like little breaks here and there. Sometimes I do a lower quality version that's still of my standard. So for example, on Sunday, this coming week is Thanksgiving in the US, and like I'm traveling a bunch, so I might not have time to write an essay. So I usually write 500-word essay. So I might just take a quote and just comment on the quote for like one paragraph. So that's cheating, you know, because
but-
like in my mind, it's not the standard that I don't want to do that every week, but it's still enough. And that's very easy for, like, that could take me like 20 minutes.
Like, what comes first to my mind is like, okay, I could try to do this thing for like a year, but this will require me, as you were saying before, like to put in more hours. Like, I do 60 hours a week of work, and then I have to put the 5 hours for my side project. How can I manage something that is outside of me that will stop me from making things? Like, for example, burnout. How can I deal with burnout when I cannot do much about it? Like, or can I?
Yeah. Burnout there's obviously the physical side of burnout. So your body can't handle the lack of sleep or the lack of whatever thing you're sacrificing. I am definitely surprised that I have not burned out in many parts, because I go hard. But partially, I think the reason why I don't burn out is because the motivation is usually pretty pure. The verb is what motivates me. And so it's like there's not that like extra, like you gotta go to the gym. Like I like running. So I never like say to myself, I gotta go exercise. I'm just like, oh, running makes me feel good, so I'll go run.
Like, and you were saying like you go running because you enjoy running, and then the fact
Yeah.
that it's also healthy, that's a plus. But what would you say to someone that currently doesn't have any habit that is healthy one, and they're trying to build new habit that are healthy, and they
Yeah.
generally don't know what to do because they don't enjoy it. They hate eating
Yeah.
vegetables. They hate running. What can they do to build a better habit?
It's a great question. So one thing would be there's gotta be something that makes that thing enjoyable, right? So you hate running. Okay. Do you like walking with your friend? What if you went on a 1 hour walk with your friend?
Power walks.
The next thing would be this is from I'm just paraphrasing from James Clear. He says, I think someone said start small. It's like you we have a salsa teacher here.
Yeah.
So they know. He says if you want to start working out, he says people they wake up genuine, we're almost New
I love
Year's.
the book you're talking about.
Okay, so it's almost New Year's, and they want to start a New Year's resolution to exercise more. And so what they do is they're like, I'm gonna run a 5K.
Oh yeah.
There you go. I'm gonna run a 5K race, but they're not running. So he would say like, no, you're not gonna succeed in that because you're trying to go from 0 to 100. So this is what he says. He's like, the first week, just set the alarm.
Yeah.
So set an alarm for the first week and wake up 30 minutes earlier so you go to the gym. That's it. And then set the alarm, wake up, and then go back to bed.
Yeah.
The second week, set the alarm, put on your gym clothes, and then go back to sleep or go do something else.
Yeah.
Third week, put on your gym clothes, wake up early, drive to the gym, drive home. Fourth week, drive to the gym, 10 minutes of exercise. Fifth week, 15 minutes, right? And by then, you've broken it down into such, you've kind of cleared all these little hurdles across the way. So, and then you compound them, right? And like, exactly, you compound these tiny changes over time. It's the same thing about investing, right?
There's some comments in Italian, and they're like, some of them are like, how boring, and another one is like, gas is so expensive. Like, yeah, that's the point. Like, you start really, really small to the point that it gets to be your habit, and it gets to be easier. Yeah.
And then the last one is nothing for habits specifically, accountability. Right. So just having someone else that has a similar desire, a goal than you. We're social beings. We really hate letting other humans down. And so, I mean, that's why in the US CrossFit is so big, is because you start going regularly to CrossFit. You see the same people. And if you miss a day, the next day, like, hey, where were you?
Exactly.
Like, we missed you.
I noticed that is the biggest change that I saw from like going to the gym by myself and going, like, I started Muay Thai. So like, and now I'm doing that with other people. And then when I'm missing for a couple of times, like, where have you been? I'm like, oh, I feel bad about saying like, oh, I was in bed. I didn't want to come. So like, it makes you like go into places like actually being accountable. And talking about habits, I wanted to know if you have like a personal or like any practice or habit that you think improved in general, like your mental health. Because I really like talking to you. I realized that you said like you didn't burn out, or like you feel, it feels like you figured that out.
I have a lot of habits in that. But again, for people that are in the chat that exercise regularly, when you hit a point with exercise that it becomes such a part of your life that you feel bad when you don't do it. And that is like super powerful to reach that point. So I'll give you a few of I think the biggest one. So I've been meditating 40 minutes a day for 10 years.
40 minutes?
For 10 years.
40, okay. Talking about like the fact that, sometimes we do fail when we should not judge ourselves, especially when we fail. How do you face failures or setbacks? What is your point on this?
So a question for people in the chat, like when you talk to yourself, like oh, like you do something, oh, great job, Kay, or like, oh, you could have done that better, or you suck. I can't believe you do this. I can't believe it took you so long to do this, or you could have done this better, or so on. It's like, what is the ratio of good thoughts? Like not good, like positive thoughts or like to negative thoughts. And so I'd encourage you to think about that. But for me, especially in the Wall Street days, I was very, very hard on myself. So it was very much negative, like 90% mean thoughts, like you're not doing enough, you're not good enough, you're too lazy, you're this. I mean, you guys could probably extrapolate that I'm not lazy, but like I'm telling myself I'm lazy to like, like that motivation thing we talked about earlier. My negative thoughts were like 90%. I remember one time I was in the subway in New York. I was running to like make a connecting train, and I had just gotten a new iPhone, and then I like tripped, or it fell out of my hand, and the screen cracked, like a tiny crack on the edge. And I was cursing at myself in my head. You're an idiot. You're never going to be like I was saying stuff like, you'll never be successful if you can't not break an iPhone for an hour. So I've always had this like very, very hard on myself approach. And now it's flipped. It's like 90% just kind, right? It's not like positive per se, but it's just kind, and it like sees me. And 10%, no, I'd say even less, like 5% is like, even when it's hard, it's like, come on, you could have done better, versus like, you effing idiot, like what the F's your problem?
So like now that you've been going through like this whole path and all these things happen to you, what would it be
Yeah.
like a piece of advice that you would give to a younger Khe? Like
I think so. I think one of them is the one that I just said, which is I'm where I am because of all of the decisions that I've made over my life. So like, I don't really want to change anything, because then I wouldn't be who I am. But there's one thing that I would, two, we've talked about both things. The one is I wish I had started meditating at a younger age.
Okay, yeah.
That would be one. But I guess that qualifies as advice. And the second one is I would not be so hard on myself in my own head. Being so hard on myself isn't the reason why I had success. I think I would have had way more success if I was kinder to myself.
You think so?
Yeah.
I know that there's like some people are struggling with like finding a new job and like trying to get to find the right connections. What would you say that right now is like the best way to find the right job, the right path for yourself?
This is a great question. Like, I hope that people see is like, so much of what happens in our lives is happening in our heads. And so if we can get clear with our heads, we can get clear with our actions, right? And so one of the things that I ask people about a job is I think about a list of like, what do you want your job to bring to you, right? And so, yes, I would love a job where I get paid a boatload of money, where it's fully remote.
Hell yeah.
But I could come into the office whenever I feel like it. The office is 1 minute from my house. And my coworkers are awesome.
And they
the
pay
product
for the gas
they're building
to
is
get there.
so cool. They pay for the gas.
They pay for the coffee. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And they donate 20% of the profits to a charity that I believe in. And
they
all that.
bring dogs in the office too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we all want that.
Yeah.
Right? But there's no solutions. There's only trade-offs, as one of my friends said.
And then regarding like networking, especially like now, I feel like I don't know if you agree with me, but right now, like if you want to get a job right now, the best thing you can do is like to get to network and to find the right people in the right spot. And what do you think is the best way to introduce yourself while networking? I know it's a bit far away from like
this
what
is
we
a
were
good
talking
so
about.
I'm actually recording an hour-long video on this topic.
Wow.
So it's going to be on my podcast.
Again, people go
in 3
check
weeks.
it out on the website.
But so I'll give you a crazy statistic.
Okay.
I think that I've done maybe like 8,000 networking meetings in my life.
For what?
So I do now, now in this current life, I do one a day. I mean, but I would view this as, I would put this in the bucket of networking. In that, like, I'm meeting someone new, where there's an exchange of value, there's a friendship, there's a collaboration. So I would put that.
Yeah.
You might not, but yeah, about I would say about 8,000. I'm 44, so I've been in the workforce for 23 years. I have done a lot of networking, but here's a very important thing to take that number with, is that one of my foundational life principles
Mm-hmm.
is that if there's something that I know that could help someone else, I have a duty to share it. That is one of my fundamental guiding principles of life. Like besides like be kind and like those types of things,
I love that.
it's one of the like more. So if you think about everything that I've done in my in my career, or many of the things I've done, we could talk. The Wall Street's just maybe a little doesn't fit this as well. Like, why did I start a newsletter? Is because I found all these interesting things. I didn't want you to have to look for it. I just wanted you to have it. So I'm doing tons and tons of that. So it always starts from this place of like, I want to be helpful. Like, and I hope that I show up on this stream as like, I want to be helpful, right? Like that's the energy that I want to bring. Big helpful energy is what I want to bring. So that's the first starting point. And then the second starting point is that I never want anything in return. I don't want anything from you. And this is the intrinsic versus extrinsic. The joy of this is this past 90 minutes we've spent together. So that's the approach that I have to networking. I always check in with people. I just follow up. I'm always texting like, hey, what do you need? What's good? What's on your mind? I saw this thing. It's usually often like a lot of just sharing, like, oh, like, I know you like this kind of philosophy. I just listened to this podcast. So that's kind of how my newsletter started. So that'll be another one. And this is actually one of my favorite. I don't count this as networking. Basically, every friend or person that I've met that I like, I keep their birthdays. Actually, tell me your birthday.
It's pretty easy to remember. 31st of December.
Okay. What's that? 31st of December?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is your birthday? I'm going to tell you right
July 15th.
Wait.
So I keep track of everyone's birthdays, and then
so
that's
so smart. So you have one day
and then I
where
make them a video.
You make them a video?
Like I make them a video.
Oh,
a selfie
hi.
video.
Oh, that's so
And then
nice.
if it's like a close friend, I probably shouldn't say this out loud because then people are gonna.
Oh,
like,
if I don't
see-
receive it, then I'm
Yeah.
not a close friend.
Exactly. But like none of my friends are on this stream.
Okay.
None of my old friends. Lots of my new friends are on this stream. None of my old friends are on this stream. Then for my friends, then I just like lightly edit it in CapCut. So I do
Aw.
like a 1 minute. I make a 1 minute edit. I just put like emojis and stickers and sometimes I'll lay a track on it, like some like background music.
Okay, so
And then I just text it to them.
So you heard it here. If you don't receive a video with
Yeah.
emoji and a CapCut,
But again, you could see, I
Mhm.
hope you could tell that I'm not trying to BS you guys.
Mhm.
Like, I like making silly CapCut videos. It's kind of, I said I don't watch TV, but like,
Yeah.
I do like to mess around on like make silly videos and edit them like on my phone,
You have such a busy schedule and like you have so many things that you have to care about. Like how do you also manage to like be present for your friends and for all the people that you've been networking? Because 8,000 networking events is like a lot. Like I feel like
Yeah.
the idea of like a birthday, so you know that at least one day each year you're gonna text to that person, that is
Yeah.
genius. For me, that I
Yeah.
struggle with
And it's,
dealing
like,
with
real.
all
Someone
these
wrote-
people. Like, it's genius. Like I wanna ask you just one last question. I promise. You are clearly like of a different generation, and I love that we get to have this talk. And I want to ask you, what do you think is the biggest struggle that my generation or like even the younger one generation might face right now in order to like get to success or like whatever idea they have as success?
I would like turn that around, but I'll answer it. But to me, what I would say is, what do y'all know that I don't know, because y'all are closer to the heartbeat of life and innovation, right? But if I had to say, I think one of them is the fragmentation of attention.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's because, we talked about the consistency. This is where I want to be like, look, I'm of a different generation, so I don't know what I don't know. But I do think that there is this there are many things in life that you have to push through to get the result on the other side, the gift on the other side.
I really appreciate you for taking this hour and a half to be here and talk to us. If you ever want to join us on Twitch here on my channel, or if you want to create your own channel, let me know. I'd love to help you out and not gatekeep. I'd love to share. I really appreciate you for taking your time.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Chat, remember to
Thanks,
go follow.
everyone.
I appreciate you very much, and I'll see you very soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.